Here we are on a beautiful spring day. It's early March. I've talked to Chris many times on other platforms about world events, about Ukraine, about Canada's reaction to world events, Canada's reaction to American activities. And Chris, good morning. You are
Morning.
the local president of the Canadian International Council here in Victoria, one of the most prolific and successful branches of the organization in Canada, in large part because I think many individuals involved with that kind of activity live here.
Mhm.
There are some exciting events coming up that you are organizing and sponsoring. But before we get into that, we are sitting here in a world at war all
Mhm.
over the place.
Mhm.
You all, I know, all these pundits can challenge me around the, are we at war now? We are. We are all over the place at war. What is Canada's role? What are we doing? Where do we fit in economically, politically,
Mhm.
military? Canadian International Council talks about these things on an ongoing basis. Activities that you are involved with specifically will be dealing with this, and I'd like you to talk about that, please.
Yep, absolutely, John. Great to be here. Hello, everybody. And it is a bright, sunny day out there. And John is absolutely correct. Wherever you look these days, there's so much going on. I think, though, we have to recognize that although we have events happening, issues happening in Venezuela, we have a war in Iran, and we have Ukraine, and so on, that there's also many other things always going on around the world that we don't speak about so much. The Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh, the civil war in Sudan and Haiti, for just a few examples. There are many more. We tend to laser focus, as the US administration might say, on the big ticket items, which at the moment are still Ukraine and what we are now witnessing in Iran and throughout the region. And the CIC, our branch, the other 18 branches across the country, and our national office in Toronto, we focus on all of these things.
And I live
Um,
in Victoria, so I'm
you do.
biased.
Yes, and our job here is to inform Canadians about what's going on, give them those opportunities to meet with experts face to face, not on social media. We do that, but we prefer to do face to face, and whether it's individual speakers or conferences that we're doing across the country, that's what we want to do. We want to get Canadians talking about what's happening and also asking themselves, what can Canada do?
Mhm.
What is our role in the future? We are a very powerful country. Well, some might say a middle power, but I would like to say a major power on many files, and we
Yeah,
can't avoid being involved in what is happening around the world. Yeah.
exactly. And it's I sit here pausing, pondering. Never in a million years did I think that well, this is where we would be even a year ago, but we are. And
Mm.
all of us, at every coffee I go to, at every lunch I go to, at every gathering I go to, talk about these world events. There is
Hmm.
a conference happening that you're organizing on April 10th this year, and I'd like you to please, could you expand upon that? What is it? This is somewhere that Canadians can start to express, listen, understand what is going on in the world.
Right. We have a major conference here in Victoria on Friday, the 10th of April. It's CIC Couchiching West. It's being organized by our national office. We have the support, of course, of my branch, the Konrad Adenauer Foundation, and the University of Victoria Centre for Global Studies. We're all coming together to put this conference on, which will address what is happening in the world, and where Canada sits and what we can be doing. It's a very interesting conference in terms of history of Canada's history, which we're all laser focused on as well, since we've been threatened numerous times by the United States in
Mhm.
terms of being taken over, and so our history is coming to the forefront more than ever. And so the Couchiching Conference, it started way back in 1932 in Aurelia, and it was put on by the Canadian Institute of Public Affairs back then, and it was a gathering over the years that brought Canadians together in at Lake Couchiching to
Oh, I see. It's a
to
reference to a lake. Oh, right
it
on.
is, yeah, Geneva Park, Lake Couchiching. It is it's a physical
Excellent.
place. It's where things got started.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about the CIC, the CIC, then it was known as the Canadian Institute of International Affairs, the CIIA. It was started in 1928 by Robert Borden, and so now we have then the Couchiching Conference, which wasn't associated with us, but that was 1932.
Mm-hmm.
But in the last few years, the Couchiching Conference and CIC, we came together, and CIC is now responsible for running the Couchiching Conference. We've run two big ones in Toronto at the Aga Khan Museum over the past few years, and now we're branching out. And the first non-Toronto conference is here in Victoria. And then we will move further eastwards to other cities this year, also putting on conferences there. So yes, it's a big undertaking. It's going to be we're going to have lots of space up to 200 people. Uh, Obviously, the public. We're going to be involving students from the University of Victoria, so all ages, all backgrounds. Again, we always like to say our job is to inform Canadians. We want Canadians to be a part of the conversation, and this is how we're going to do our part. And so, yes, it's the 10th of April, a Friday, all day from 8:30 until about 5 p.m.
Yeah.
With lunch include lunch as well.
Lunch. Well, this is super. So this is an event. This is not like a trade show. This is a listening to speakers type of
Right.
format.
Yes.
With two coffee breaks,
Hmm.
a lunch,
Hmm.
and what Chris, this is great.
Hmm.
Can you give a sense of the speakers
Right.
and
Right.
potentially the topics that might be covered off?
Yeah, so the day will start out in the morning with a keynote speaker. I'm delighted to say that we have Jody Thomas as our keynote speaker. Jody was the former National Security and Intelligence Advisor to Prime Minister Trudeau. So she brings so much to this event in terms of Canada and our role in the world. So we're delighted that she's joining us. And then we'll have a couple of panels during the day, full of wonderful speakers. Shelley DeMello, Cynthia Milton, and Jonathan Manthorpe, Angel Liu from the Taiwan Trade and Cultural Office in Vancouver, and we've got many others that we'll be listing shortly. So two panels. One sort of saying, Canada as a middle power, how do we and other middle powers wrestle with what's happening in the world? And then the other panel more focused on um, internal to Canada issues. How can we mobilize Canadian society to meet the challenges that we're facing in the future? And then we'll end with another keynote speaker and a small reception afterwards. But it'll be a pretty power-packed day, and we want to leave some room in there for tabletop discussions among the people that will be there, so that they feel that they're not just sitting there and listening to what's happening, that they're actually taking an active role. And so this will make it quite vibrant and exciting, I think. So yeah, it's going to be a wonderful day, and much will come out of it. We're not just not going to hold this conference and walk away at the end of the day. We've got a couple of students that will be creating what is called today a zine or a magazine with lots of imagery, and it'll bring to life the findings of the conference that we can then use to promote other conferences and the findings amongst a younger generation who, as much as they love to read long reports, this will be more dynamic. And quite frankly, even though that I'm older, I'm interested in the zine as well
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I
as am
get
I.
tired of reading reports. So look, we want to take the content from here and move it out, and it'll also help direct some of the surveys we do, some of the event planning we do across the country. I just let me briefly say that I was in Calgary on Thursday, speaking about the U.S. national security strategy to an audience there that was so active, had so many questions, and were indicative of this appetite that we have right now across the country to talk about these issues, like we've never seen before. Now, that's a Trumpism, like we've never seen before, because he is in our heads and dominating much of our thinking, and we need to be strong and able to stand up. So that's not just the Prime Minister at Davos saying what needs to be said. That the rest of Canadian society is whether they agree with one side or the other, but at least we come to these debates informed, and I think that's key.
Canadians want to be involved. They want
Hmm.
to be involved in conversation
They
about
do.
our almost, I have to say, reluctantly, because he certainly prompted us, but into a resurgent conversation about Canada's role in the world.
Hmm.
And with the Canadian International Council, that conversation is beginning April 10th in
Hmm.
Victoria with this fabulous conference. I think I hope that I'm conveying my passion around the need for this conversation and therefore helping with fundraising.
Hmm.
Events like this need help. Okay. Money
Hmm.
does not grow on trees, and money does not grow on memberships either, as evidenced by chambers of commerce across Canada, all kinds of groups that require some help for this conversation to be successfully facilitated. If I might reference that there are four opportunities that day for folks to sponsor networking opportunities. There is a morning coffee, a lunch, an afternoon coffee, and a reception at the end of the conference. Obviously, anyone can access my information, your information to be involved. If one were to sponsor this, you would have access to an extraordinary group of speakers that are talking about Canada's leadership in the world. There would be upwards of 200 people attending. Outstanding way to indicate your love of Canada and your desire to be involved in its future. Am I correct in summarizing all that, Chris?
Absolutely, that there are those sponsorship opportunities, and there are other things that we could also talk about with potential sponsors. And I think while this is a conference that lasts for one day, those sponsors that are here in Victoria, please understand that we are so active in the community. On Saturday, I spent most of the day along with two of my colleagues at the student-run UVic Model United Nations conference that brought students from across Vancouver Island to the university to talk about, well, history, the Cuban Missile Crisis as one example, because it's very apropos to what's happening today from a nuclear sense. They were diving into our history. We run all sorts of events throughout the year. So it's a way for a potential sponsor to become very involved with what we do in a modest way, but having great effect by doing so because we have so much student activity coming up, Model UN conferences. We're out at Royal Roads all the time. We support student conferences other than Model UNs also, so events, conferences, student involvement. This is a wonderful way to show that a company or an organization has an active role in building the social fabric of the country.
I know that we've been identified as a middle power, possibly with criteria in and around economic variables, military variables, population variables. But in terms of intellectual leadership, courageous variables, we're not a middle power. We are a leading superpower, and
Hmm.
Canada always was.
Hmm.
We're researching and refining our passion and our leadership in that capacity. And I'm very, very pleased to be helping the start of that conversation with you, Chris, with the Victoria chapter of CIC, with the Couchiching West conference, April 10th. We will have more of these videos as we get closer to that date. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you, John. Thanks for all the support. Thanks, everyone.